Hey everyone, it's Blake, and we're back here with another episode of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020. And before we jump into Smackdown, this is episode 4, so if you missed Raw in episode 3, would highly recommend checking that out before you dive into Smackdown. And if you haven't watched Raw and you haven't watched any of the other videos, I would start from the beginning because we made some changes to our schedule. We had a draft and we had our first edition of Raw. But before we jump into Smackdown, we have a couple news items to discuss. As you can see, I have highlighted one of the main ones here. Papa Punk, CM Punk, and AJ Lee are going to have a child. Congratulations to the duo. AJ Lee is going to start her maternity leave a month from now, so any hopes we had of signing her immediately, clearly not going to happen because AJ Lee is going on maternity leave. So I wanted to throw that one out there as it does not directly affect my booking in WWE, but there is something that does. Nikki Cross has also announced that she is pregnant, and she will be going on maternity leave in 1 month. And yes, congratulations from everyone except for me. No, I'm kidding. Congratulations to Nikki Cross, but it does put our Raw women's division in a bit of a bind right now because as we've talked about with the brand split, our divisions are kind of, you have talented people on them, but you just don't have a lot in terms of the numbers when it comes to the women's division. So we've really only got 5 or 6, I think, on each side of the brand split right now. So anytime like we lose anyone, that's going to be, a significance because we just don't have the numbers. So that is something I've kind of built into some of our plans, our booking ideas. We want to try to really make the women's division something that, on a week in and week out basis is not having the same matches over and over and doing things like that. So this one is a bit of a knock because I did have some ideas in mind and had her penciled into a match here at an upcoming pay-per-view, but we will work around that and kind of try to reshuffle the Raw women's division, which right now, I don't know, we can't have a lot of pregnancies. I'm all for these people doing what they want, but we can't have a lot of pregnancies in our current women's division. I know that sounds harsh, and obviously I'm just kidding, but it is something that we're going to have to work through because she is on Raw with Rhea Ripley. We've got Bayley, Sasha Banks. Who else do we have? Carmella, Mandy Rose. I know they're all on there, which I think that's about it right now. So, we don't have a lot in terms of numbers. But those are the biggest noteworthy items in terms of news. If you want our competitor, our direct competitor, AEW Dynamite, a good show, Andrade the MVP, and I think those are basically the main things. New Japan did get a deal with New Japan World. Boy, I bet that was a hard deal to strike to show their future tour highlights. So apparently going to be an important part of their broadcasting strategy for the future. But those are the news items. Really, Tuesday, Wednesday, there wasn't hardly anything, but Thursday, there were several. And so I wanted to point them out before we get into SmackDown. 205 Live ran as well. Bronson Reed apparently appeared on 205 Live in this hardly spectacular show, but obviously we're not booking 205 Live. That is part of NXT in this particular mod. So those are the news items, and now we will jump into SmackDown. And we start with the Smackdown pre-show, which has Titus O'Neil and the Viking Raiders defeating Humberto Carrillo and Lucha House Party. Goes around 5 minutes, does a pretty bad rating, but this is what we're doing with the pre-show right now. We're just trying to get workers involved, and that is kind of what you get. So not much to really of note here in terms of just this pre-show match, but I know we do have some changes in terms of gimmicks. We have several from what I can remember. As we talked about on Raw, we're changing some of these gimmicks for people who have poor gimmicks or kind of adequate or not how we want to use them. So we have several of these to do. Titus is going to change to Badass. Let's see if that does well for him. Very good. So that is a positive there. Let's say Dorado is going to change from Luchador to Masked Luchador. Makes sense, right? This guy's got a mask. Let's see how that does. Very good also, so that's a positive. He's extremely marketable, as we saw, because he does have the mask. So Lince Dorado could be our new merch guy. Carrillo has a poor gimmick with a fan favorite. Let's see if he does any better with Classic Technico. He does. So great there. So lots of positives on the gimmick changes for those three in particular. So we'll see if that gives them a nice little boost moving forward. But we have another pre-show match here. Otis getting the win against Jinder Mahal. This one did actually worse than the previous one. I probably would not have expected that, but it is what it is. So not a great pre-show match here either. But this is what we're trying to do, and I'm just trying to use some of the people we have on the SmackDown side on the pre-show. So that's the pre-show. Probably not a lot of people. If you missed the pre-show, you didn't miss much. So let's jump into the main card. And we start things off with a King of the Ring qualifier here, as we have Mustafa Ali advancing to the King of the Ring with a win over Cedric Alexander. Goes 10-16. Not a wonderful rating by any means, of 51. So this is one that not, probably from a rating standpoint we didn't want, but the main goal here was to have Mustafa Ali advance to the King of the Ring, and that's what we're going to have here. And we also have a promo here for R-Truth, who is also looking to join the party at King of the Ring, as he, next week on SmackDown, will take on Sami Zayn in another King of the Ring qualifier. And this was a nice pairing here. I used Pat McAfee as more of a backstage, guy here who can do the interviews. He does it in the ring with R-Truth, who is basically being able to, talk himself up. And really the question here is, Pat McAfee comes over from the commentary booth over to the ring to talk to R-Truth. The biggest question for R-Truth is, what is he going to call himself whenever he wins King of the Ring? And it's a great question. Is he going to be King Truth? Is he going to be, R-King? I think he likes R-King. He likes the sound of that one. So R-Truth is already setting up names and such. And as you can see here, R-Truth benefiting from a hot catchphrase, great without a script, and also Pat McAfee, we didn't script him either. So that just this is a pretty good pairing here. We may have to revisit this at some point because these two probably pretty well together in terms of their skills on the mic and just being able to improvise and that kind of stuff. So that's a nice little rating there at 67. Not great, but it'll do for what we wanted to accomplish with this one. So R-Truth gets ready for Sami Zayn next week in King of the Ring qualifier action. And then Shayna Baszler, it's a segment here we use where it's basically a nice little video package of Shayna Baszler saying that she's tired of being disrespected. She deserves more, and it gets a 56. So we start off a little thing here we have in mind for Shayna Baszler, and this will kind of kick off a few plans we have in place for her here moving forward. So gets a 56 on that. And then, wow, a pretty nice rating here. I mean, this isn't great by any means, but this is still something. We'll take a 64. As we saw on Raw, we had some bad matches. But we'll take this in terms of these two together, where Charlotte gets the win over Naomi, 10-14, uses the figure 4. This is also going to be something that advances kind of a story we have in place here. You'll see that shortly. But Charlotte being penalized due to poor form, that's not, we could have had a much better rating here, potentially, and Naomi still having that public support. So we have plans for both of these two, and so this could have actually been better, but still, we'll take this. This is nice. As I said before in Raw, we're going to lose popularity. We know our overall show rating's not going to be perfect, but we have to build up these first several shows to get things where we want them to be. So we're just trying to build up storylines and such. So we'll take a 64 on that, and we have more in store here for Charlotte Flair, who is also with Pat McAfee. We're just using Pat and his great improvisation here. So we're starting the storyline with Charlotte wanting the SmackDown Women's title. So she taunts Bianca Belair, who's our current champion, and this was good here. So despite Charlotte being in poor form in her match against Naomi, she's in good form here in terms of this segment. In her interview with Pat McAfee, who's apparently he's just grabbing everyone for interviews. So we're gonna use that more, because that's one of the things I have noticed is when you look at the skills and such, using Pat McAfee is sort of that interviewer, a la, I guess you could say, a Jesse Ventura or someone like that, who's on commentary 1 second and then he's off interviewing people. That's kind of what I'm thinking for Pat McAfee, because as you can see, it's doing pretty well thus far in terms of some of the ratings we're getting. So I want to kind of keep going with that and see if we can use him, because really our other interviewers, the numbers and such are not great. So I don't know how well they're going to do or push the ratings for that point. So we're probably going to use Pat a lot. when we can. So having Pat move over after Charlotte gets done with the match, Pat hits the ring and he interviews her. So that's some of the stuff we may try to do when we want to, get some promos and such, and have Pat involved there. Sort of like, I mean, Tony Schiavone does it too. So we'll try to do that more with Pat. And we get a video here. Yes, inspirational 80s Power Ballad with Damien Priest training. So it's a nice little video highlighting the strengths of Damien Priest. Gets a 54. We didn't expect a whole lot from this, but this is sort of something we just wanted to try to build up Damien Priest, and we've got some plans for him, and he's also in action here. As we go with Damien Priest getting the win over Elias, 10-19, gets a 60. Again, would have loved it to be higher, but one of the things we have to address, looks like Elias and Jackson Riker, awkward pairing, no chemistry, so you can probably guess what's going to be next when it comes to what we're going to do with that. So that is something that we will have to address after this particular show, in terms of clearly that's not going to work, and it probably drag this rating down a little bit. So a 60, not great from two guys who are probably, going to fall in that, well, Priest is going to have a much more prominent role in terms of our plans, but still, Elias is pretty over, I think, for the most part. So when I looked at the ratings, so we'll see, but we have to do something with this pairing here with Elias and Jackson Riker. Apollo Crews cutting a backstage promo here. He's our current Intercontinental Champion, and good to see here that Apollo is getting better at his gimmick. But basically, it's Apollo running through. He runs through a list of all the Intercontinental Champions, all the ones that are considered legends in WWE. And after Apollo goes through the list, he basically says he's better than every single one of them. So add anyone you want to the list. Ricky Steamboat, Shawn Michaels, go up and down the line. He says he's better than all of these Intercontinental Champions, and he is out to prove that. So that is kind of what Apollo has on his mind. So Apollo, nice rating here with a 62. I think, to me, Apollo's someone who kind of underutilized in terms of what he can do and the potential and all that. So we've got some ideas in place for Apollo, and I like that he's getting better at his gimmick. That's going to help too. So nice work here from Apollo, even though we want to get to where we have every rating as a 70 or above, but we're not there yet. So. And another King of the Ring qualifier here as Shinsuke Nakamura defeats Baron Corbin, and Nakamura is going to advance along to King of the Ring as well with Mustafa Ali. So they're the two representatives thus far from SmackDown. Not a great match here, 51. This was just, not good, and that's going to hurt our overall rating. Clearly, this is, again, doing the King of the Ring qualifiers the way that I'm doing them. You just have some of these pairings that probably aren't great, and probably not the best for either party involved. At least we didn't get bad chemistry here, but, I would assume that these two have different styles, and just probably one of those that despite them having, decent in-ring performances, the match rating just turned out to be not great. So that's it is what it is, I guess, at this point in terms of just kind of looking at what we have here with these two. But Nakamura hopefully going to deliver better ratings as we get to the King of the Ring. So he will be joining the group at King of the Ring, and we do have something to address here. I think it's a gimmick change. I think it's Baron Corbin. It is. So he's going to go from the King to a bully, which I think those have really been the two gimmicks Baron Corbin's played in real life. It's two most recent ones, but I'm done with the King one. I know it would make sense in terms of this, but that was kind of the thing, is if we had had a little more time to build up this match, then we probably would have had, your usual promo with Baron Corbin saying, I'm the king of the ring, like I deserve all this stuff, I'm going to win, and all that kind of stuff. But he loses in his qualifier match, so we're done with the king stuff. Maybe he can come back around next year with all that, but we just didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this and make Baron Corbin a centerpiece in terms of building up this King of the Ring. So we're going to debut the bully gimmick, and that gets a great. So he moves away from the King. He's now the bully. We also changed his photo. He originally had the one with the crown on, but we changed that as well. So that is what Baron Corbin turns back to in terms of his gimmick, and it's Nakamura advancing in the King of the Ring. And now a great backstage promo here. We want these. We want these green ones. That's good. These bright greens ratings we love them. And Drew McIntyre with an 80. And basically this was Drew McIntyre saying that he is out to prove that he deserves a shot at Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And clearly a very passionate promo from Drew McIntyre, who's also one of our cornerstone players here on SmackDown. And a great promo from here to start things off. And Drew McIntyre will be in action next week on SmackDown. So great promo here from him, getting ready for his match next week. He wants Roman Reigns. He's made it clear that is his goal, is to become the Universal Champion. And another, so back-to-back here. This is wonderful. Seth Rollins cutting a promo as well. Masterful job of improvising his interactions with the crowd. Everything deserves better announcing when you got these two, apparently, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins. But a great promo from Rollins, who basically tells Jeff Hardy, who they will face off in our main event next week. So Seth Rollins versus Jeff Hardy, King of the Ring qualifier next week. That's our main event. On SmackDown, we've got AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio as our main event on Raw coming up in the next one. But Seth Rollins and Jeff Hardy, and Seth tells Jeff that it's not 2001 anymore, and that this is not Jeff Hardy's time. That, it's 20 years after, and it's time for Seth Rollins to properly earn his crown as the King of the Ring. And so he runs down Jeff Hardy, and Seth Rollins hot here in terms of what he's got in mind, and he is just, he's on fire here, getting ready for his match in the King of the Ring qualifier against Jeff Hardy next week. So a great promo from Seth. And this obviously also, helps us a bit in terms of we have some matches that are going to drag this rating down, but this will at least help out a little bit with that. So, and that leads us to our main event, which does also involve Seth Rollins, and it is Seth Rollins and the Usos defeating Jeff Hardy and the New Day in around 17 minutes, with Seth Rollins getting the pin on Xavier Woods. Looks like Seth, as expected, head and shoulders above everyone else. So. That is good. We start a couple different storylines with this. As mentioned, the New Day are going to be involved in that triple threat at King of the Ring, with the New Day taking on the Usos and the Street Profits to crown our undisputed tag team champions, which will float back and forth between Raw and SmackDown. Also, we start the King of the Ring storyline, so that obviously just involves some of the participants in the King of the Ring, and I think the reason why we just didn't add it to some of the others was because they weren't necessarily together in the segments, but Seth and Jeff obviously are, so that starts that off, and that's one of the things we wanted to focus on, was getting more of these storylines. We're probably still going to get dinged for it in terms of the rating. We still don't have enough that are reaching that. I don't even know what the number is. I want to say it's like 70 something or above in terms of what are expected from us. So we've got to get those up pretty quick, but that's okay, and we probably actually could have started that with some of the promos and such, which, again, these are the little things that I'll remember to do after the first couple of shows, but now we're just trying to kind of build a foundation, and then we'll kind of clean up some of that other stuff that we could add to really improve these ratings a bit. So this is what this will do with the storyline. So a main event victory for Seth Rollins and the Usos, getting the win over Jeff Hardy and New Day. So Seth Rollins built a little momentum heading into his King of the Ring qualifier match with Jeff Hardy next week in our main event. But we're not done. This was our main event in terms of the actual in-ring action, but we've got a big angle coming up here to build to. So Vince McMahon we get a freestyle segment here with Vince McMahon getting ready for his big announcement. You probably already know what he's going to announce if you watch Raw, but there's a little bit more to it than that. So let's get to 68. I would have loved for this to be a lot higher as well. I'm not sure. Maybe we picked a freestyle angle. We probably could have just did a generic sort of promo type thing with Vince and just kind of used it to our advantage there. But this is what we went with, and we'll deal with it. But now we get the big show closing angle here that does also involve Vince McMahon. And so here's the setup. A very chaotic scene in the ring with Vince McMahon making his announcement that he will announce the new SmackDown general manager next week. So not surprising if you watched Raw. You know, he also made the announcement that he'll announce a Raw general manager next week. But then Roman Reigns comes out And Roman Reigns, which is going to start this storyline, Roman Reigns comes out, says absolutely nothing except for this. He tells Vince McMahon to deliver him to him. So Roman Reigns wants him delivered to the head of the table. And Vince has no idea what Roman's talking about, and he said that he's out here to make an announcement, and that leads to, cranky Vince getting a little upset about Roman coming out and interrupting what he's trying to do. And so Roman gets in his face, and then all of a sudden Paul Heyman's freaking out because, you've got Paul Heyman working the crowd. So Paul's trying to sort of calm Reigns down, not wanting him to do anything, rash here, and don't want him to get too excited. But Reigns continues to get closer to Vince's face. Vince starts bowing up as well. We know Vince. He can get a little angry. And so that leads to, the Usos coming down, trying to restrain Roman Reigns. We get Otis and Titus O'Neil, R-Truth, all running in to kind of hold Vince back, because Vince starts taking his jacket off, and Vince wants to go at Roman Reigns. Like, he wants to just deliver some blows to this guy, but they keep backing him off. Roman Reigns is smiling, and then that smile turns to a complete frown as Roman Reigns, once again, while all of these guys have Vince held back, Reigns grabs the mic, tells Vince to deliver him to Roman Reigns, and that is it from there. So Roman drops the mic, he heads out, and Vince got jacket off, still ready to fight Roman, but Roman walks out of the ring with a very angry look on his face, demanding that him be delivered to Roman Reigns. So that is a big sort of setup for something we have in mind here with our plans. So this also advanced the Undisputed Tag Team Champions storyline, so just because we had the Usos in it there as well. So this is pretty big. I'm pretty excited about where this is going to head. Hopefully, no one gets pregnant. I don't think I have to worry about any of these guys. Hopefully, getting pregnant, but that is hopefully the only thing that'll hold back this really big storyline we've got in place that we're going to do here. So this is one we're really banking on to be a big part of SmackDown here moving forward. So this is one that I think we start off in a good way here. With this one, we get sort of a teaser of what's to come, but Roman Reigns wants him. Who is him? That's what we will try to find out as we go along here. But a good rating, 78, and hopefully that'll help our rating a little bit. But as we know, our overall show rating is probably still going to lose its popularity in terms of this. But very happy with this opening segment here to start this big storyline. All right, and so this gets a 62 overall. I think that was actually worse than Raw, and I think it's because our in-ring action was terrible. And at some of these, not necessarily all of them, but yeah, we did not do great here in terms of all of these averages. But as we know, when you average all this together, it's just not great right now. But we pretty much kind of come to expect that. We also have the feeling, not enough interesting storylines going on. That's something else we're going to kind of tighten up a bit as we move forward here. So not really shocked at this at all. I think that, as I said, these first couple shows are going to do pretty poor ratings-wise, but we just have to build up some of these storylines we're working towards. So I think we're going to be all right with that, even if some of the TV advertisers and such are not going to be happy, but that's okay. We've got a plan. We're going to have more sort of star-studded matches. We want to build to them. We don't want to just throw them out there without any build. We've seen how that works out in real life. So yes, even though we lose a lot of popularity, we're going to have enough interesting storylines going on. Probably, in the next couple shows, we'll hit up to that level of hitting the number we need to on those. But this is just the beginning, so I'm not shocked by that. So that's SmackDown. I thought, actually, probably overall, if I look at them, I think SmackDown was probably a better show than Raw. But because we did have, we had the big angle at the end, but we also had some decent in-ring matches. I mean, Charlotte and Naomi was good. It was, I guess, the best match on the show, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the best match on the show. The main event I would have loved to be a little bit higher with the 6-man tag, but it is what it is right now. We're working on something, so we'll get there. So that's SmackDown, and we will see if there's any other stuff we need to address before we wrap up this particular episode. So it turns out there is some significant news for WWE after that edition of SmackDown. As we talked about in the first couple shows here, our ratings were not good. They were bad overall, and they just were not what they needed to be because we have entered a cooling off period. If you played this game before, you kind of know what that means, and I'm sure a lot of people actually who played with WWE have had this happen in terms of entering the 6-month cooling down period after falling below big. So we can't even hit big again, even if we meet the criteria for the 6-month cooling down period. We've also entered the shock phase because we have fallen in size back to medium. And so for a few weeks up to a month, no popularity gain through shows. This is not ideal, to say the least, but like I said I think it was probably the first show on Raw we did, this was expected. Like, I had a feeling this was going to happen, and we have to sort of, or I expected to take a step back to be able to eventually take some steps forward. So I cannot say I'm shocked by this at all. Does it present some challenges? Yes, but at the same time, I pretty much knew this was going to happen because the way that I want to book the company, which may ultimately get me fired in this game, I just think that it was going to happen because these first couple shows were not going to be great. And we were already on that line in terms of kind of looking at where we were going to be anyways, if you look at the numbers and such. So this is something that I probably knew was going to happen pretty quickly just because of kind of the overall popularity and such. So that we got a nice rating here. I mean, SmackDown with a great 4.41 rating, but that is just something that unfortunately we get hit with here in terms of looking at what it knocks us back a bit from where we are there. So that is not ideal, but if you look at kind of where we are and you look at our size now, we went from, I think we started off, whatever it was, at 77 or 78. And so the past, or probably 78, right? Because achieve 77 to hit the big. So we dropped below that. So that's where, not unexpected at all. We were right there in terms of the numbers. So just because we had a couple bad shows to start things off, our popularity fell in all of those regions because our first couple shows were not up to that level. This is something where, I mean, we may drop even more a little bit for a while, but I think in the long term, it's going to work out fine. It's going to pay off. We're going to be okay, but this is just part of the game. If, again, I know for a lot of people watching this, you play this game and you kind of, you've hit this before probably with WWE if you tried to play with them, and particularly in this save. It is just, you hit the cooling down period. And that's kind of where we are. So we're going to, just ride it out. We're going to, go through it, and we will be back stronger than ever. I feel pretty good about that. But this is something, not a big surprise here with us hitting the cooling off period and falling in size right off the bat, because we were not going to, put all of our stars and have every show hit 80 right off it just wasn't going to happen. So that's something that we will deal with and move forward with that. So that is the significant development after SmackDown. As you can see here, we've also got some pending things we have to address, and they will play into some of the plans that we have in place moving forward. So I will address those. I don't want to give you any spoilers, so we're not going to jump into it, but I would rather sort of play out on our actual programming to make it a little more fun, a little more suspenseful. So I'll see if I can address those and see if we come up with anything good. But that was SmackDown, and that was WWE falling back to medium. 2 shows in, I'm clearly doing wonderful with the company thus far, and hopefully Vince is not getting too cranky, although he was pretty fired up in that segment with Roman Reigns. So thanks as always for watching the video here, and be sure to subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate it. We've had a lot of great feedback thus far on these first couple episodes. I'm really having fun with this. So yeah, I really appreciate the kind words and everything. So we'll continue to keep moving right along here with WWE, but be sure you subscribe so you can get them delivered to you. You can, turn the notifications on and know exactly when we upload the next video. So should have the next video, which will be probably Raw. We will jump into that show here on the next one. So thanks again for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like, share, and coming up next, it will be our second edition of WWE Raw.